Hello, good evening. There's been much anticipation of the government's plans for revolutionising the heating of our homes to fit the green agenda. But in the last half hour, the outline of those plans arrived and key targets appear to be missing. There'll be £5,000 government grants offered for low-carbon heat pumps and a £60 million innovation fund to make heat systems easier and cheaper to run. But the overall financial commitment for heat pump subsidies announced today comes in at just over £450 million, which takes us nowhere near the targets the government set itself to revolutionise the energy use of households across the country. And for those expecting to see that ban on new gas boilers, well, our economics editor Ben Chu has got some breaking news on that. Ben, just talk us through what you've seen.
Well, that's right, Emily. So the government's very long-awaited heat and building strategy, as you say, is officially released tomorrow. And Newsnight has learned that against expectations, it will not include plans to legislate to ban the sale of new gas boilers from 2035. It will instead, I'm told, simply commit to setting a clear ambition for the end of new gas boiler installs from 2035. Now, let's be clear, the government never actually explicitly said it would legally ban new gas boiler sales from that day, but it was widely expected by analysts and the industry, even to the end of last week. So the fact that this legislative commitment will not be in the strategy document risks arguably being interpreted as a sign the government has watered down its commitment to decarbonise the UK's homes, which of course is absolutely crucial for the UK getting to net zero overall, because a sixth of our total emissions come from domestic heating.
Are there any other concerns about what you seem to be seeing in the strategy so far? There
are. I mean, the other complaint of analysts and industry sources who I've been speaking to tonight relates to the amount of money committed by the government for subsidies to help people install a new heat pump. So it's £450 million over 3 years. At £5,000 a household, that amounts to around 90,000 subsidised heat pumps, or 30,000 every year. Now, remember, the government has set itself a hard target of 600,000 heat pumps being installed every year by 2028. Remember, that's just 7 years away. And the view of those I've been speaking to is that this sum of money simply isn't enough for the government to kick-start the market and enable industry to scale up to those levels of delivery. And within Whitehall, I'm being told that fingers are being pointed at the Treasury for not funding this subsidy scheme more fully. Now, we have to wait to see the final document, which will be published, as I say, tomorrow. And in fairness, many in the industry are welcoming it. But it seems, ahead of the crucial UN climate change talks in Glasgow, which of course are being hosted by the UK, there are some pretty uncomfortable questions about just how strong the UK government's domestic commitment to decarbonisation is. And today I've been taking a closer look at the scale of that domestic decarbonisation challenge. A field not of dreams but of heat. By March 2022, a ground source heat pump 200 metres beneath this field will start providing entirely renewable energy to the residents of this Cambridgeshire village.
We're in a field just outside Swaffham Prior in the very near future. It's going to be the site of 130 boreholes, which are going to supply green energy to a 300-home village. I think this is an absolutely amazing project. All credit to the community who have come up with the idea, and I feel really, really chuffed to be part of this.
This is the oil tank as it is now. We fill this up probably 3 or 4 times a year. With the new system, this will all be gone, and we get to remodel the gardening.
Local resident Mike Barker, whose house is currently heated by an oil-fuelled boiler, will be one of the first to be connected.
The borehole field and the air source heat pump just over the road. It's really exciting. It's really groundbreaking in terms of what the UK is doing. And, we've had a lot of interest from other communities phoning us up saying, how do we do it? And we are trying to help them through that transition.
This is the kind of zero-carbon district heating project that the government is seeking to incentivise as part of its new heat and building strategy released tomorrow. Around a sixth of the UK's carbon emissions come from our homes, most of it from our fossil fuel-powered gas boilers. For many UK homes, the decarbonisation solution is unlikely to be collective district heat networks like the one in Cambridgeshire, but individual heat pump units put into people's homes. The government's new strategy provides £450 million of public money over 3 years to subsidise households with £5,000 grants, instead to install these heat pumps which run off electric power. The subsidy is needed because heat pumps currently cost around £10,000, more than double the price of a gas boiler. Some analysts have questioned whether £450 million in grants is sufficient.
Getting heat pumps retrofitted into existing homes is going to be an expensive option for a lot of people. And if we were to look at the situation in the UK where there's about 4.5 million households in fuel poverty, you cannot expect somebody who is in fuel poverty to stump up the £10,000 to pay for a heat pump. It's just inconceivable. So there's got to be more affordable options available.
Decarbonising domestic heating is perhaps the biggest and the most sensitive challenge facing the government on the road to net zero. For millions of us, especially those who live in older housing, it's going to involve expense and it's going to involve disruption. That's why it's so important for the government to have a credible strategy to get there, and one which protects the least well off financially. Without that strategy and without those safeguards, it's easy to see public support for this evaporating. Ministers originally said they would produce this heat and building strategy last year. The delay has had analysts tearing their hair out because the rollout is going to have to be extremely rapid to keep us on course for net zero and government policy looking credible ahead of the COP26 meetings in Glasgow next month. At the moment, just 30,000 heat pumps are being installed a year in the UK. The government has set a target of at least 600,000 a year by 2028, a 20-fold increase in just 7 years. And the Climate Change Committee says more than 1 million should be going in every year by 2030. Not everyone in the industry is convinced the government's strategy yet adds up.
Typically, a heat pump installation will take 2 people 2.5 days compared to one boiler for one person for 1 day. You're going to require more trained installers, but it's where are these people going to come from? If you've got a challenge of finding HGV drivers, care workers, fruit pickers, where do you also find people who, in addition to what we have already as gas safe registered engineers servicing our gas boilers, where do we get these extra people from as well?
It turns out that it takes a village, and only a village, to heat itself. But it might well take more money and support than the government is yet committed to providing to decarbonise a nation's housing.
That was Ben Chu, and joining us now in the studio, Anthony Browne, Conservative MP, and he's chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on the Environment and is also a member of the Treasury Select Committee. And we're joined by the Green Party MP, former leader Caroline Lucas. Welcome to you both. Anthony, where's the political courage in this announcement? Everything seems so far to be watered down.
Well, it is actually world-leading. I mean, the ambition to, or the target to ban the sale of new gas boilers by 2035 is the first in the world of its type in any major country, and it's been welcomed by environment groups there. The commitment to get gas
But it's not in there. The ban wasn't in there. Is that going ahead?
It's the target of the ambition of the government. The target of the government is to ban the sale of, to stop the sale of new gas boilers by 2035.
Just to get to the bottom of that, because I think the expectation was that they were going to be banned, the sale, by 2033, and now it's just become this ambition for the end of 2035. If that's not watered down, what is?
Well, I don't know what the earlier the stories were about 2033. I mean, they've announced this now. It is world leading to get heat pumps to be cost equivalent to gas boilers, so that they're fully competitive by 2030. Again, that's a huge step and a huge commitment, which would, this whole thing will pump prime the heat pump industry to kick-start it, and that is the big commitment here today. And I know you had criticism on some of the videos about the amount of money. We don't necessarily know at this stage exactly how much money is neaded, because you don't know how quickly the prices will come down.
Let's just deal with the first things first then. So it's not a ban, it's now an ambition, but Caroline Lucas, Anthony Browne says we are world leading.
If that were the case, you only have to look at where we're starting from in terms of the installations of heat pumps. We're one of the worst in Europe in terms of the numbers that are being installed right now. It's about 1.3 heat pumps were sold per 1,000 households in the UK. Compare that to the fact that, you know, we were installing just over 1/4 of the number of heat pumps that Germany does, just 1/6 of the number in Italy, just 1/10 the number of heat pumps in France. So we are one of the bottom when it comes to what's happening in Europe. And you're quite right to point to the holes in the strategy. I mean, I can't believe that having waited all this time for the strategy, what we've got now is yet again a half-baked strategy without the plans to properly achieve it. You know, we know that the money isn't there. Clearly there was a fight between Number 10 and the Treasury has won, because the funding is not there to make sure that poorer households will be able to afford to put in place the insulation and the low-carbon heat pumps that are needed here.
Anthony, you know what's going on inside the Treasury. Does that sound right? Because £450 million doesn't get you anywhere near your own targets.
The headline announcement here today is that homeowners will get £5,000 grant to install heat pumps, and that will bring the price
Do us a favour, don't look at the headline. We're trying to have a bit of analysis here, and that's what it seems to be spelling out.
Octopus Energy is one of the main producers of heat pumps in the UK at the moment. They say that will bring down the price for many homeowners down to about £2,500, which is getting fairly close to what a gas boiler is. It's very important that it's fair, but the whole point of these grants is we don't know. So it is for if you've got one of the cheaper gas heat pump boilers at the moment, the heat pumps at the moment. What we don't know is how quickly the prices are going to go down. We all know the prices.
Yeah, so your own targets,
it all matters how much.
As Ben was saying, your own targets are that 600,000 people would have these heat pumps every year by 2028.
Yeah, and there's 30.
And this works out at 90.
Clearly that's a rapid pace of growth, but the big unknown here is that the speed at which the prices come down. And all the industry are behind, the energy companies, the heat pump manufacturers are behind the announcement today, because by putting the government's money and energy behind this, it will lead to greater production, costs coming down, more easy to install, quicker to install. You heard the man comment that actually takes 2 days to install now. Can we bring that down to 1 day? And actually that could all happen very, very quickly. And so the money, the £450 million, would go a lot further to help spread the increased number of heat pumps.
So £450 million actually works out at far more than it does at the moment if people take the government up on its offer. Caroline Lucas.
The prices will come down.
The 450 million is a tenth of what the Committee on Climate Change has said is needed if we're to properly meet our targets in this area. It's just a tenth of the funding that's necessary. And Anthony is right to say that, yes, if you get enough upfront investment, then the prices can come down over time. But that's exactly what's lacking in the strategy. There simply isn't the money there to mean that there will be a quick take-up of heat pumps. And even more unforgivably, there is almost nothing in the strategy about home insulation. It is quite extraordinary that you can produce a strategy around clean heat, but not actually have in there a comprehensive street-by-street, local authority-led insulation scheme, which is what absolutely all the experts are calling out for. There's no point.
Okay, so Caroline, if you're listening to this from Insulate Britain and you're saying there isn't enough for home insulation, and if they feel insulted by this offering and they decide to come back and make direct action on the motorways, would they have your support for that now?
Sorry, was that asked to me?
Yes.
No, I think we should be targeting the places where the decisions are made. It's not the motorists on the M25 who are making those decisions, it's the Treasury, and I would far prefer to see them outside the Treasury and making a very loud noise, because Rishi Sunak has turned into the fossil fuel chancellor. He is blocking the kind of action that we need to see. There were reports at the weekend suggesting that the Treasury is blocking not just action on this, but also saying that the chances to decarbonise are going to be massively undermined, because the Chancellor thinks that if you invest in the green economy, that's not good. In
Lovely.
fact,
the message it's sending out.
The total funding announced today is £3.9 billion, and the £450 million is just one part of the package to increase the energy efficiency and reduce the carbon emissions from people's homes. And the heat pump is the one we've been talking about, but there's lots of other different measures in there. And the main thing is the government's commitment that actually they'll be as cheap as gas boilers by 2030. New gas boilers will be banned by 2035.
Yeah.
And actually, the amount of money, we can't possibly know what the whole scheme will cost right this time, because you're talking about what happens in 10 years or 20 years.
Right now, the message it's sending out is there is no ban, there's just an ambition, it's fine to carry on buying brand new gas boilers. That's your Chancellor who has to say that's his priority.
That is absolutely not the message from the government. The message from the government is we're fully behind heat pumps here. And actually, one thing you haven't touched on here is there's been a lot of debate about hydrogen versus heat pumps. There's been a big campaign for hydrogen. So I've done quite a few events on that at the APPG on the environment. And actually, the big message here is the government's coming down firmly on the side of heat pumps in most circumstances, and that's a big thing.
Caroline,
and they're committed to getting heat pumps to be cost
There's
equivalent
just
to gas
never going to be
boilers.
enough.
There's a whole strategy here.
Just a second. There's never going to be enough money for the Green Party, is there? I mean, I think your manifesto pledged 100 billion a year on reaching net zero, $1 trillion in government borrowing. I mean, most people would just hear that and freak to see that level of debt. That's not going to be workable, is it, for somebody in power?
Well, first of all, it doesn't have to be government borrowing. Money can come from a variety of sources, including the private sector and, of course, in credit creation. That's what we've done many times before, and we can do that again. But the point is, we are facing an existential threat to the future of life on this planet. And I can't quite imagine looking future generations in the eye and saying, I'm really sorry we didn't actually sort out this planetary crisis. We couldn't afford to. That is ridiculous. And the truth is that if we put this investment in now, upfront, high investment in now, it will repay itself many times over in terms of the jobs, in terms of getting emissions down.
The UK really is world leading on so many different fronts here. I do a lot with other politicians from other countries, and they're amazed at all the work we're doing, which is ahead of the world.
MPs of all stripes.